Alice hurriedly follows and profusely apologizes for not telling him. Frank realizes that his late father was trying to communicate with him from Summerland, believing he saw him in the floating castle. It is 1975 on the coast of Kent, England. A writer, Alice Lamb, lives in a seaside cottage on her lonesome, constructing a novel she is finding difficulty to type with the various changes she makes. A pair of schoolchildren appear on her doorstep and interrupt her by asking for charitable donations, which she declines before slamming the door and continuing her work. Her reputation as a reclusive writer began in the 1940s, during World War II, as she published academic theses about folklore and myths. Children have constantly harassed her because of her solitary nature, believing she is a witch working for the Nazis. They take it too far when they jam her mail slot with pieces of wood, prompting her to angrily storm out of her home and complain directly to the local school's headmaster, Mr. Sullivan. Though townsfolk see her as an uptight lady, she shows semblances of kindness, buying a chocolate bar for a child in the store. One afternoon, while she is typing a draft of her new research paper, a woman, Mrs. Lawrence, appears on her doorstep to present her with a boy, Frank, who will be staying with her for a week as part of the war effort to house young refugees from London. She initially refuses, failing to remember if she has volunteered for such a task. Still, an unread letter in her broken mail slot proves otherwise. Though she lets him stay inside, the reclusive writer does not show hospitality, letting the boy take care of himself. However, Frank does not complain, feeling curious about Alice's life while sharing stories about his father in the war. The morning, the writer accompanies him to school. After the headmaster welcomes Frank, Alice protests, demanding he finds him another home before leaving. Meanwhile, Frank is happily received in the classroom by the teacher, Mrs. Garrett, who assigns him to sit beside Edie, a self-proclaimed young individualist. The pair grow closer during recess, exchanging stories about their parents getting drafted for the war. In the cottage, Alice sifts through a box of photographs connected to her research of the Fata Morgana mirages. Having read a pamphlet about the annual spring concert in St. Michael at the North Gate, she suddenly flashes back to sometime in the 1920s when she met a young woman named Vera Willibond. Later, Frank tries to engage Alice with a joke while she writes but fails to amuse her. He becomes lonely and disconnected, but the headmaster counsels him to adjust to his new surroundings. One afternoon, Edie claims that Alice is a witch working for the Nazis, so she hesitates to come and play with him in her house. Later, while he digs potatoes, he becomes fascinated with her book. Alice explains the myths surrounding Fata Morgana, which originated from a tale of a witch, Morgana Le Fay, who lured sailors to their deaths with mirages in the sky. Much later, a group of boys teases Alice outside her window, but as they run away, they knock over Frank and injure him. While she mends his knee, Frank becomes curious about why she lives alone. She then flashes back to the spring concert, where she and Vera closely got to know each other as single women without a date. The pair secretly developed feelings for each other as they drank and danced the night away. Another day passes, and Alice makes a breakthrough in her research of Fata Morgana, enthusiastically sharing her discovery with Frank about the mirage of Dover Castle in the sky near the cliffs of Ramsgate. They drive to the spot and wait for the phenomenon to happen. While in a deep conversation, Frank sees a green tower flag in the distance floating on the horizon, but Alice does not see it. Believing he is playing a trick, she angrily storms off and leaves him. However, she sees Dover Castle's green flag along the road. She realizes he is telling the truth, immediately rushing back to the cliffside to admit her mistake. She offers to help build him a wooden aircraft with balsa wood as they get home. Frank then runs to the shoreline to make it fly, but Alice tackles him so he does not fall, causing the plane to crash. Later, as they walk around in the evening, she recalls her time with Vera at her summer home, enjoying a dip in the lake and a picnic in the grass apron. She tells Vera about missing her father, who died in World War I, which drove her into depression. They kiss in the bed as they keep each other company. On another afternoon, Frank receives a letter from his mother informing him about her new job at the ministry and his father's exploits in the war effort. Alice suggests writing back and including a thank you letter she writes for his mother. Though Frank is saddened to leave her house in a few days, Alice makes the best of their remaining time together to go out turret hunting. She then explains Summerland as a pagan myth about the afterlife, but Frank believes it might be an island yet to be discovered. The following day, Alice finds that Edie is wounded after slipping into a rocky path and offers to patch her up. She invites her to celebrate with them in honor of Frank's last night at the cottage, but she declines, lacking permission from her grandmother. Alice then recalls when she visited Vera's mother, who fell ill. She looked outside the hospital room as her family gathered inside, keeping her true feelings a secret. That night, she readies for dinner when she freaks out over Frank picking up a treasured vinyl record once given to her by Vera. As she calms down, the boy deduces that she has loved Vera passionately for a time. Still, surprisingly, he casually accepts this even though Alice tearfully explains that it is taboo for a woman to love another woman in their society. Frank then casually asks if she kissed Vera on the lips, feeling amused about her love life. The following morning, Alice escorts Frank to school when Mr. Sullivan informs him that his new adoptive family lives far away on the coast, requiring him to move to St. Joseph's School, which is nearer. Frank feels crushed he was not informed beforehand, but Alice is as surprised as he is, advising him to be good before he leaves. Later in the day, she reminisces about when she and Vera were in the field discussing their future, with the latter wanting to have a family. While walking along the shore, she sees Frank's broken wooden plane and realizes she misses him. Returning to the school, she surprises him by appearing in the office of Mr. Sullivan to take him back. She apologizes for suddenly changing her mind and promises never to lie to him again. Later, while Frank leaves with Edie to play, Mrs. Lawrence visits Alice bearing grim news about Frank's father, who recently died in the war. Still traumatized by a similar loss of her father, Alice protests, but Mrs. Lawrence makes it clear she must be the one to reveal it even though the boy will celebrate his birthday the next day. Later at supper, she struggles to tell him the truth, knowing it will hurt him, so she keeps it to herself. In the evening, she recalls how Vera left her to start a family, believing their relationship would be meaningless if she will not have children to raise. On the day of Frank's birthday, Mrs. Lawrence suspects Alice had not informed the boy about his father's fate, so she approaches Mr. Sullivan, hoping he will share the news. However, Edie discovers it when she and Mrs. Corey meets with Mr. Sullivan. Realizing Alice did not tell him, she goes to their cottage to enjoy his birthday while asking strange questions about his parents while Frank is blindfolded. She runs away, but Alice chases her, pleading she keeps the information about her father's passing a secret until she can muster up the courage to tell him herself. The distraught young girl then rushes home while angry at Alice. Later, at sunset, Frank tells Alice that someone from Summerland may be communicating with him. Although the writer dismisses the idea as folklore, she assures him that he is loved by whoever is trying to reach out to him from the afterlife. The following day at school, Mr. Sullivan tries to console Frank about the loss of his father, but the young boy becomes confused, assuring him he is doing all right. Simultaneously, Alice is preparing a permanent room for him when she finds his scrapbook. Flipping through the pages, she becomes aghast at discovering photographs of him with his mother, her long-lost love, Vera. Piecing together their similarities, she rushes outside. She asks around the neighborhood how the people are picked out to house refugees, believing Vera sought her out intentionally. Still, Edie's guardian, Mrs. Corey, insists it is a volunteering effort. While this happens, Edie tells Frank that Alice is a liar, revealing his father died in the war. Unable to accept the revelation, he immediately rushes to the station and boards a train to London to be with his mother, much to Mr. Sullivan's worry as he and Edie attempt to recover him. He then tells Alice, prompting her to drive all day to London to follow him and apologize. The desperate writer arrives at London station but fails to see Frank among the passengers. That night, she scours the streets to look for the boy, eventually finding him crying in front of his house, which was bombed during an air raid. Tired and defeated, the pair spend the rest of the night in a bomb shelter. The following morning, Alice drives him back to Kent, but the boy screams for her to pull over. He then runs far to the coastline, intending to see the mirage of Summerland in the distance. Alice hurriedly follows and profusely apologizes for not telling him. Frank realizes that his late father was trying to communicate with him from Summerland, believing he saw him in the floating castle. Suddenly, he slips from the rock he is standing on, prompting Alice to save him from drowning. The next day, the pair sit by the cliffside as Alice hands Frank breakfast. She sincerely apologizes and reveals how she struggled to face losing her father years earlier in a similar fashion as Frank's father. Later, she excitedly surprises him with the spare bedroom she prepared for him, furnished with drawings, figurines, and knickknacks, even though he will eventually leave her to live with his mother. While comforting him, Alice is shown a photograph of Frank and his father posing in front of a Tiger Moth airplane. Theoi recalls a time he went inside the cockpit. He then offers a favorite picture of his mother but becomes sad because of missing her. Later, Mr. Sullivan stops by to commend Alice for acting like a parent in her own unique way. One afternoon, she and Frank return home and see Vera waiting by the deck. Alice becomes emotional to see her alive and hugging her son tightly. Frank takes Vera to his room and shows her the unfinished airplane he is building for his dad. They later finish the wooden aircraft, with the help of Edie, and light a candle on the cockpit before Frank glides it toward the coast into Summerland. That evening, Vera, moved with emotion, confesses to engineering Alice's selection in the refugee initiative, knowing she would look after Frank for him if she did not survive the bombing attacks. Alice apologizes profusely for her actions. Returning to 1975, Alice finishes the manuscript, in search of Summerland, as she looks through old photographs. Suddenly, Vera interrupts by stealing the manuscript to read about how she was written in the story. After reuniting in the 40s, they continued to live together in the cottage. As Vera steps out, Alice returns to her typewriter to write a dedication on the title page. She meets her on the beach, joined by an adult Frank who has been eager to visit his two mothers. Alice happily presents him with her manuscript with a dedication to Frank, saying that stories have to come from somewhere. The family leaves the beach, with Alice offering to serve Frank's favorite potato chips. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.